Welcome back. Thank you so much for bearing with me this semester. We're nearing midterm, and I know that we've done a lot of work already, but we still have, a good ways to go, and that includes some major assignments, which is what this video and the next several videos are going to be talking about, which is the communication analysis paper, one of our major assignments for this semester. It's worth 120 points. So a significant amount of points. There's 1,000 in the course, so that's 12% of your total grade. It's a whole letter grade and a little bit more. So if for some reason you chose not to submit this, don't do that. I don't know why you would do that. You couldn't get an A in this class. The highest grade you could get would be a high B if you had a perfect score on everything else, which you probably likely wouldn't. Some people maybe, not to undermine your chances, but you'd be well on your way to a C if you just missed this paper. So that's to encourage you to pay attention. I also think that you might enjoy doing this process. It's not often that we get some time to really focus on reflecting on our own communication and the communication that we experience in our lives, and this paper will allow you to do that. So pay attention to this video and be sure to download and read, if you have not done so already, the prompt, which is right here. You can see. Download this from the modules and take a look at it. There's a lot of details in here for a reason, because I try to give you all the essential information you need about the analysis paper, all the instructions for how to write it, as well as what you're looking at right here, which is the rubric. That's how I'm going to grade it. So it's my expectation that you will read this on your own. I am going to go over it today in this video. That's what I'll be doing, and in the next few videos. So let's just show you where you can get that in case you haven't found that already. It's in the modules under analysis paper, communication theory and analysis paper. Click that and download it here and read it. Okay, so some important stuff we're going to be talking about. Let's just get into it right away. Communication analysis paper. Let's start with the assignment description. In this 5 to 7 page paper, you're going to use a communication theory to analyze an event of communication in an interpersonal or group communication context. So that's what I want you to be thinking about, either a relationship or a small group of people who are usually working to achieve a goal. Those are the contexts that I want you to be drawing your central example, your main event from in this paper. The goal is to use a communication theory to examine, explain, and evaluate a personal experience of communication. So it should be something that you've been involved with directly, either as a participant or at the very least as a witness. This analysis paper will dissect whatever communication process is under examination, and it's going to do so by identifying its parts, showing how they work and fit together, maybe evaluating the effectiveness or the ethics of that communication if it's appropriate. And then finally, the implications of the analysis, what you have learned and what the larger community of students could learn from this analysis is going to be identified and discussed. So that's the main purpose of the paper, to write an analysis of an actual act of communication or event of communication. So your papers should begin with a short introduction. I'm just putting on here about approximately a quarter of a page introduction. That introduction should grab the reader's attention immediately. state the main purpose of writing the paper, offer a clear thesis statement, and then preview each section of the paper. And you could read about this, of course, in the assignment prompt. So have an introduction and make sure it does those things. And then also the paper should end with a short conclusion at the end, also a quarter of a page. And I'll just throw all this on here. Conclusion at the end, you see. And that would summarize the main findings of the analysis and the implication. What's the body of the paper going to be made of? Well, those three things here in the middle. And again, these are just approximations of page numbers. It should be, your paper should be between 5 full pages and up to as many as 7 full pages. So the review of theory will start the body of your paper, followed by a description of the event that's going to be analyzed, followed by the actual analysis and discussion of implications. And then, of course, the conclusion. I'm going to go over these things more later on. But for now, that's just a basic idea of what this paper is going to look like. Let's talk now about the assignment formatting. This is how you're going to format the actual Word document that you're going to use to write the paper on. So I want you to be using Word or DocX or DocX, .doc, DOC. And here are the requirements for that. Okay, as I've said, 5 to 7 pages, and I want the text of that to be double spaced. You're going to use 12-point font, Times New Roman font, please, and I want you to set the documents to 1-inch margins on all sides. I'm going to show you a document here in a second that meets these requirements and show you how to set them. Put your name, title, and the page number in the header of each page, and begin the paper on the very first line. So I'm going to show you this. Use paragraphs, no spaces or headings between the paragraphs. So let me show you that on a Word document. Sorry, my photo booth keeps freezing. Here is a example. Let me see if I can find it. Yes. Okay, so you open up your Word document here, and let me zoom in a little bit. Up here in the header, if you double click on it, it'll take you up to the header. I have the title, and let me scoot this over so you can see my face. There's the title right here, and then I have placed the person's name and page number right here. So that's header, and then if you go to, let's see where it says page number right here, that's how I inserted it. And so that'll put it on every page, and if you do insert page number, it'll automatically change the page number to the correct page number, and then it'll just insert this header on every page. So I don't need you to tell me the name of the class because you're going to be submitting this directly into Canvas. So I don't need you to tell me the name of the class. I'll see it. It's right in Canvas. Honestly, even if you didn't tell me your name, I'd still know it was your paper, but I do want your name on each of the papers. I don't need to know the date. I'll see the date you submitted it in Canvas. So just the header, just keep it brief. The title of the paper, your name, and the page number. And then what I mean by it begins on the very first line is just that. It begins right here on the very first line. And again, this is Times New Roman 12-point font. It's got 1-inch margins all the way around on all 4 sides. And I know that because I go to layout and margins, and I make sure I select, mine is set to have normal be 1 inches all the way around. You can do custom margins if for some reason 1 inches all the way around is not an option for you. So make sure you set your margins to 1 inch all the way around. And then the last thing is make sure you're using paragraphs here. I don't need to use headers, so notice this student doesn't use headers anywhere. It's just paragraphs, and they indent. Each paragraph is focused on a single idea or task, and that's how you indicate that you're moving from one idea to another, is just by indenting there. So use paragraphs, indent over. If you go to let's see, if you go to, what do I do? Format, paragraphs, and make sure you click this. Don't add space between paragraphs, because if you unclick that, it's going to add space there. Please close that off. I don't want there to be extra spaces. So again, that's format, paragraphs, and then click this don't add space between the paragraphs. And there you see is how I want it formatted. Okay. And the last thing I want to just show you is going to be the works cited page. Notice this student has 5 to 7 full pages. A full page starts at the top and goes all the way to the bottom. So that's the minimum. And how do I know they met the minimum? They've gone on to the 6th page, right? And if they were me, I would probably write a lot more, and because I have a ton to say, right? And so I might take all the way up to the bottom of the 7th page. The works cited page is not going to count as one of your page counts. So it could go all the way on to the 8th page without you being penalized. I just want to show you how to do a hanging indent really quickly, because that's what this is here. This is a properly formatted MLA works cited page. Notice it's double spaced, no extra spaces in between. The name of the author kind of hangs over here. It's called a hanging indent. And you go to, again, format, paragraph, and then this one, special. Change it from none to hanging, and it should be at about 0.5 inches, and that'll give you that nice hanging indent format for the works cited page. Okay, so back to this. That was all I wanted to say about the assignment formatting, and wanted to show you that in a Word document. The assignment process I'm going to talk over really quickly, and then we'll get into sort of the main writing tasks in the next video. So the assignment process will be starting with examining the list of theories. In the prompt, and I'm going to show you later on in this slideshow, there's a list of theories that you can use for this assignment. Examine those list of theories and the context of communication that are associated with those theories. Each will be featured in readings, either from the course readings, chapter readings, and in lectures during the weeks that we read about interpersonal and group communication. So they'll be coming in the next, I think, 2 weeks, and we'll be talking more about these theories. When you're brainstorming these, consider which of these concepts, contexts for communication that you're most drawn to over the next few weeks as I'm teaching about these things and you're reading about these things. Think about which ones you're drawn to, which ones you think are interesting, and consider possibly using them for your paper. From there, you want to brainstorm possible events or episodes of communication. Consider which types of rich personal experiences with relationships or group communication that you've had. Maybe it's interpersonal communication within a relationship, like friendship, communication with your romantic partner. It could have been even communication with strangers, co-workers, parents and their children, etc. Maybe you've had some small group communication experiences. Maybe you were part of a group that was making a decision about something, or maybe was trying to solve some sort of problem. It could have been a work team for example, with your employer, or maybe you're part of a student club or some sort of local activism. Maybe your family was trying to solve a certain problem, or maybe you're part of something like a band and your band was trying to solve a problem. So brainstorm and think about what might make a rich personal experience for you to examine, and what's going to be something that you don't mind reflecting upon, and will even be something that you'll be excited to spend some time thinking about. From there, consider which theories and which events might go together, and try to make a selection, right? So after considering the theories on the list and brainstorming possible personal experiences, select an event and a theory. Choose an event or a set of related events of communication that you can analyze by thinking about which events will allow you for adequate observation or reflection. So it's going to give you something to really think about. And events that will, when you read them against the chosen communication theory, that they're going to produce interesting and insightful connections that will be good for your analysis. When considering like the scope of the events, is it going to be a single conversation, or maybe a few months of a debate between a couple? When considering the scope of the event, it's going to really depend greatly on the theory that you are choosing to do the analysis, and how you go about doing that examination and analysis. So you should be able to kind of narrow and expand your scope based on your own judgments as necessary, hopefully to produce nuanced and rigorous analysis. So, for example, I might choose to analyze how my relationship began by looking at a series of maybe text messages between me and the person I was dating. Or maybe I might choose a conflict between me and a friend that occurred last week, say, and talk about how we went about resolving it. I might write about a time that I was a part of a punk rock band, and I wasn't really, but I might talk about that if I was, and we had to replace our drummer. And so I might talk about that decision-making process, or I might look at how my drummer went about quitting the band by sending a certain email. I might write about my employer's attempt to change the organizational culture of my workplace through a series of workshops. So, choose an event that you've experienced firsthand, communication either in one of your relationships or communication in one of your groups or organizations, and try to choose something that will give you enough to talk about in a good 5 to 7 page paper, which really is not a whole lot of space and time once you see everything I'm asking you to do. So try to make a choice of something that you can write about. Sketch out your ideas don't sketch out your ideas just yet. The next thing I wanted to say was to read about the theory that you've chosen. So read deeply about the theory in our course readings and in the various supplemental essays. I'm going to show you in an upcoming video these essays, and they're on Canvas. And while you're reading these things, take notes. Make sure that you are trying to develop a good, deep understanding of the theory that you've selected. Next thing you should do is kind of begin to sketch out your ideas, begin applying the theory to your event. Using the ideas and concepts from your theory, how might you go about interpreting the event you're analyzing? What kind of application of this theory do you see occurring when you hold it up to the event? Do you see the concept at work in your example? How? Begin to kind of record those observations, and really at this point you can begin the writing process. And I want to encourage you to write using what is sometimes called an iterative process. An iterative process is where you have different tasks that you're accomplishing. Maybe you're working on the introduction, you're working on the body, you're working on the conclusion, and you kind of bounce around between them, and you make adjustments to them as you're going, and you don't really write the paper from the opening sentence in an orderly fashion all the way through to the closing sentence. And instead, you are writing to create symmetry and connection between the various sections of your paper. So the review of the theory section, which I'll talk about in a little bit later, should define the theory in a way that anticipates the analysis section that's going to come and prepares the reader for that analysis section. When you're writing the section of the paper where you give a background and description of the event, you should set the scene for the analysis and implication section. And the analysis should fully utilize the theory, right, that you defined in the review of the theory section of the paper. And the analysis should dive deeper into the description section of the paper. And the implication should follow from the analysis, and so on. So you're going to bounce around to make sure that you are writing in a way in which it appears that you know where you're going with your ideas when things are all said and done. So you got to make adjustments as you go. You have to write your paper iteratively. All right, so I'm going to pick up here with the main tasks of the paper, which there are 3 of them, and I'm going to dive deeper into how to do those tasks in the next video.